Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Rope is a 1948 psychological crime thriller that was directed by Alfred Hitchcock, and it's based on a 1929 play of the same name. The movie was produced by Hitchcock and Sidney Bernstein as the first of their Transatlantic Pictures productions. It starred Jimmy Stewart, John Dahl, and Farley Granger, and is the first of Hitchcock's films that was done in Technicolor. The storyline goes that upscale New York college students, friends, and roommates, Brandon Shaw and Philip Morgan, have just strangled their longtime friend, David Kentley, to death in their apartment. They did it solely to show their superiority as humans, both by being able to carry out such a crime without being caught and by disregarding the life of who they consider to be an inferior being. While Brandon feels exhilarated by the act, Philip is nervous, and this is made even worse by Brandon's plan to hide David's dead body in an unlocked trunk in their living room, the trunk which will be front and center at a dinner party that they will be holding that evening. The guest list is also Brandon's way of showing his superior intellect, as he doesn't expect to be caught, despite the fact that he's including David himself, the person they killed, who obviously doesn't show up, Kenneth Lawrence, who is David's best friend, Janet Walker, who's David's current girlfriend, and Ken's ex, Henry Kentley, who's David's father, and Miss Atwater, a visiting friend of Mr. Kentley's. Although Philip is nervous enough by the presence of any one of these guests, as well as the loyal housekeeper, Mrs. Wilson, he is most nervous by their last guest to show up, Rupert Cadwell. He's their former prep school housemaster, who they considered their intellectual equal, and who had in the past stated openly that murder can be justified in certain circumstances. The question then becomes, will Brandon and Philip's act be unmasked, making it less than the perfect murder that they assume it is? Now, I have to tell you, this is one of the strangest productions I've ever seen. I recently watched the movie for the first time. I'd always heard about it, but never seen it. And I have to tell you, this is a strange one, both in its content and the way it was produced. You're just not going to see anything done like this movie was done. The only one that had the kahunas to do this type stuff was Alfred Hitchcock. The movie is one of Hitchcock's most experimental ones, and never before had a major director done anything like this using big box office names. He abandoned standard film techniques to allow for long, unbroken scenes. Each shot ran continuously for up to 10 minutes, which is the camera's film capacity. All this without interruption. Everything was shot on a single set, aside from the opening establishing street shot under the credits. The camera moves were carefully planned, and there was almost no editing in the film at all. The walls of the set were on rollers and could silently be moved out of the way to make way for the camera, and then replaced when they were ready to come back into the shot. The film set was an amazing dance. Prop men constantly had to move furniture and other props out of the way to allow the large Technicolor camera to navigate the scenery, and then ensure that everything was replaced in the correct location. A team of sound men and camera operators kept the camera and microphones in constant motion. All of this as the actors kept to a carefully choreographed set of cues. This film technique conveys the impression of continuous action, but the action is actually stretched a bit in the viewer's mind. The time frame that's covered by the movie lasts about 80 minutes and is supposed to be in real time. In actuality, it's a little bit longer than that, about 100 minutes of real time. This is accomplished by speeding up some of the action. The formal dinner lasts only 20 minutes. The sun actually sets too quickly, and so on. Slight changes were made to speed everything up. Jimmy Stewart found that the whole process was just exasperating. He said the real important thing was to rehearse where the camera was and not where the actors were. The backdrop of the film, called a cyclorama, was one of the largest backings ever done on a soundstage. It included models of the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, numerous chimneys with smoke coming out of them, lights coming off the buildings, neon signs that were lit up, and the sunset slowly unfolds as the movie progresses. Within the course of the film, the clouds, made of spun glass, changed their position and shape 8 different times. Since filming times were so long, everybody on the set tried their best to avoid any mistakes. At one point in the movie, the camera dolly ran over and broke a cameraman's foot, but they kept on filming. They pulled him out of the way and just kept things rolling. Another time, a woman puts her glass down, but mistakenly misses the table. A stagehand had to rush over and catch it before the glass hit the ground. Both of these shots were left in the final cut of the film without us ever knowing it. The theatrical trailer for the movie features footage that was shot specifically for the advertisement, and this takes place before the beginning of the movie. You never actually see it in the film. It shows David, the victim, sitting on a park bench as he speaks with Janet before leaving to go meet with Brandon and Philip. Jimmy Stewart narrates this entire sequence, noting that this is the last time that Janet and the audience would see him alive. The whole movie was shot in 10 takes. That's just unbelievable. Some of these ranged from 4.5 minutes to just over 10 minutes. At the end of these takes, the movie alternates between having the camera zoom into a dark object, which totally blacks out the lens in the screen, making it almost like a conventional fade-out cut. The film is very different from the original play of the same name. Alfred Hitchcock made his own adaptation, and he had the screenwriter create new dialogue and characters for this adaptation. In the play, there is no Janet Walker, no Miss Wilson, no Kenneth Lawrence, and no Miss Atwater. The play takes place in England. Brandon Shaw is Wyndham Brandon, and Philip Morgan is Charles Granilow. Hitchcock completely rewrote the guts of it and changed things up significantly. At about 21 minutes into the movie, the character of Janet is asked about her new job. She says she's writing the same dreary column on how to keep the body beautiful for an untidy little magazine known as Allure, which at this time was a completely fictional thing. But 43 years later, in 1991, a magazine named Allure debuted, which focused on fashion, beauty, and women's health. Now, anytime we talk about an Alfred Hitchcock movie, we always have to talk about his brief cameo that you see in every film of his. In this one, you really have to look closely. He's at the very beginning credits as he's walking down the street. In that shot, you will see a neon sign advertising something called Reduco. That's the same fictional weight loss product that Hitchcock advertised in his famous newspaper ad cameo in Lifeboat from 1944. This is one of those films that after watching it, I sit and scratch my head. I'm not sure if I like it or not. I tend to think I do, but it's such a bizarre film, I'm not sure. Take a look at it yourself. I think it's definitely worth the watch. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.